Hey guys, we're back again today looking a little bit more at plants. We're going to take a deeper look at the leaf and look at the vascular tissue that we've talked about a little more in depth today. Uh, most leaves have one specialized thing that they do, and that's photosynthesis. All right. We have two types of what we call mesophyll cells that make up the leaf. Both types contain chloroplasts. It's a matter of how many chloroplasts they have, tells us what layer it is. The first layer is the palisade mesophyll. This is the outer or the upper layer of the leaf. If you're looking at the leaf from the top, it has a lot of chloroplasts. This is where majority of our photosynthesis starts. It's the absorption of that sunlight. All right. The under layer of the leaf is called the spongy mesophyll. All right, you notice the difference here in the picture. You have the palisade, it's real stacked, real tight right there because you want a maximum amount of sunlight absorption. Down here on the bottom, we have the spongy layer. They're a little more not so square-ish shaped and not packed as tightly together. This is where our uh, vascular tissue runs through. Allows that water and nutrients to get up to the leaf. Then the one takes all the sugars and everything made down to the plant from the leaf. That spongy mesophyll layer down here, you can also see this is where our stomata is found underneath the leaf, and now we've talked about stomata back a couple lectures ago. Around those stomata, we have what's called guard cells. Here's our stomata right here, the opening that lets things in and out of the leaf. But around it, we have these cells called guard cells. Those guard cells change shape and pinch off or close and open that stomata when conditions are favorable, when things need to happen. All right. When the stomata are open, like it is here on the left picture, water can evaporate out, gas, carbon dioxide comes in, oxygen goes out. Do we want to keep these open all the time if we're a plant? No, we don't, because the more they're open, the more water evaporates out and leaves the plant. So they don't stay open all the time. They only stay open when necessary, when photosynthesis has to happen. All right, so at nighttime, when there's no sun, can we have photosynthesis? No, photosynthesis. Sun is one of the main things that we have to have for photosynthesis. So these guard cells, when they sense that it is nighttime, they swell up, they pinch off, and they close up that stomata like you see here on the right hand side. They're closed up because if those holes stay open all night, the only thing that's going to happen is water's going to evaporate. The plant's going to lose water. So at nighttime, boom, we close them up and say, okay, we're going to wait till morning when the sun comes back up. All right. These guard cells open and close due to changes in water pressure. All right, how much water pressure is in the cell? If it's a lot of water pressure, they're going to close up. That means photosynthesis isn't happening. If there's less water pressure, they're going to open up. That means more photosynthesis is happening. So they can sense this. They have a built-in gauge that tells them when to open and close. We've looked at some of the adaptations of plants already, but the leaves themselves have many adaptations. Some can withstand extreme temperatures. All right? You look at our pine trees that we have here in Texas. They can withstand cold, they can withstand hot. They're built for that. That's why we see them grow here. All right? Because we have such a drastic change in temperature. All right, we can go from freezing to 100 degrees, depending on the month. That changes very frequently. So these trees their leaves are specialized to withstand those extreme temperature changes. Some are adapted for water loss. All right, that cactus down here in the bottom, it doesn't get a whole lot of water, but that leaf, that petal on that cactus here, is adapted to where it can keep more water in. Maybe its guard cells work differently, its stomata work differently to keep as much water in as possible. Some are here on these lily pads. They're adapted for aquatic environments. A lot of water. All right. They don't want to drown, so they have to be adapted to fit that environment. All right, so we look at that. We're going to look at the vascular tissue a little bit closer here. The xylem. Xylem is what brings that water and nutrients up from the roots into the plant and out into the leaves and the stem and everything else. There are specialized cells within the xylem. All right. If you look in, we have a cross section or a microscopic view of a leaf here. You see these big channels in here. We're looking at the xylem. All right. They have certain cells inside them called trachid cells. They're long and narrow. So each one of these little sections here is one cell. Okay. We have different cells making up each portion of the xylem. These cells can die, just like any other thing. When it gets to a certain age and it's served its purpose, it dies off. They can be replaced just like any other cells. All right. But we're going to look at how that stuff moves up and down here on the next slide. How movement happens comes in this term here. It's called cohesion tension theory. All right. Water can't move on its own. It has to be pushed. It can't just go up the tube into the plant. It has to have some way to move. Okay. We use this theory called cohesion tension theory to explain how water moves through the plant. We also call it capillary action. Okay. Cohesion is the tendency of water molecules to bond with each other. So if you look in this picture, these water molecules, they are going to all get together and they're going to bond to each other. Okay? So that's the cohesion part. You see the little bonds in between them here. Adhesion is a tendency of water to bond with other substances. So that is what's happening on the sides where the water is bonding to the xylem, and then the water bonds to itself, and it basically fills it up and it pushes its way up the tube. It can't free flow upward. It has to have some way that it's moving. And how it's moving is they all bond to each other, the water molecules, and then they bond to the xylem, and they kind of like crawl up the side. All right, capillary action. They fill it up and they push themselves up. Easy way to understand how this happens is you spill a drink on a table, and you take a paper towel and you lay the paper towel down, and you just touch the edge of the paper towel to the spill. All that liquid is going to suck up into that paper towel. That's called capillary action. That's the same thing that's happening here in the xylem. That water or that spill is adhesing to itself, but then cohesing to itself, and then it's adhesing to that paper towel, and it pushes itself, crawls its way up through the channels of that paper towel, just like that would crawl its way up through the xylem in the plant. Transpiration, loss of water. All right. How I relate this is like the plant sweating. We have perspiration when we sweat. Plants have transpiration. That's that water vapor that's lost due to the stomata being open. All right. When that stomata opens, It's like opening a tube and you have a vacuum that sucks that water up from the roots through the stem into the leaves. When it's closed, the water doesn't move through the xylem as well as when it's open, because you're opening it up and you're allowing that water to push its way up. Well, when it pushes its way all the way up, some of it's going to get lost. It's going to come out the stomata, and that pressure pushes some of it out. It just happens. Why does a plant need so much water? Well, because it's going to lose some of it along the way. Okay. Water travels from the roots to the top. All right. Absorption occurs at the roots, sucks up that water. You have the cohesion and adhesion inside the xylem. And when you open that stomata up, boom, it forms that nice little runway for that water to push its way up into the plant. And then, like I said, some of it is going to be lost out of the stomata through transpiration. All right, so the other tissue is the phloem. All right, phloem takes everything that's made by the leaves through photosynthesis down into the plant. So the main thing is going to be sugar. Okay, that sugar is transported throughout the plant. The plant has to have it. That's its food source. It's what keeps it strong and healthy, and it takes it downward. All right, the biggest thing about the phloem is this tissue is alive. Okay, the xylem, not so much. Okay, xylem is not living tissue. It's basically just a corridor of what we call cells to push water up. The phloem itself is living tissue. All right, and just a little reminder: photosynthesis. All right, we have photosynthesis in the leaf. Here's our little leaf solar panel here. The top has all the cells that are full of chloroplasts that absorb that sunlight. Sunlight comes in, mix it with the water coming up through the xylem, and we have photosynthesis happening, making that sugar. Sugar is then taken down through the plant by the phloem. The oxygen that's made is released out of the stomata. All right, carbon dioxide is brought in through the stomata, so we have that gas exchange happening there, and we have a very simple process, but it is something the plant doesn't even think about it. It just happens, and for us, it's a process that would make our lives so much easier if we could walk out and stand in the sun. We get energy. We don't have to eat. We don't have to do anything else. But we don't have that luxury that plants do. So one more time here, we have our reactants, we have our products. Carbon dioxide, water, energy, sunlight gives us that sugar and that oxygen. That's what plants do. The bottom, remember, aerobic respiration. This is what we do, or what's done in the mitochondria. All right, take that sugar, add that in that oxygen, and it makes carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. Remember, these two systems work together. Without one, you can't have the other. Do we need plants? We need oxygen. We need sugar from the plants. Do the plants need us? Yes, they need carbon dioxide. They need water. All right, so we work together, mutualistic relationship.